The early morning sun barely penetrated the grimy windows of Victor's family restaurant on the outskirts of Pinewood, Georgia. Marco Delgado, a heavy-set man with salt and pepper hair, unlocked the front door and stepped inside, stifling a yawn. Monday was inventory day, which meant checking the walk-in freezer and making space for the new deliveries. "Victor? You here already?" he called out, his voice echoing in the empty dining area. No answer. Marco shrugged. The owner, his friend of 15 years, Victor Mendez, had been showing up late frequently. Financial troubles, mounting debts, and his marriage was on shaky ground. If you're finding this story intriguing, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more true crime stories. Marco headed toward the kitchen where the massive industrial freezer, purchased 3 years ago when business was booming, dominated the back wall. Something felt off. The usual mechanical hum of the freezer was missing. Marco frowned and placed his palm against the metal door. It was warmer than it should be. Had it malfunctioned? Victor would be furious about potentially spoiled inventory. He pulled the heavy door handle and swung it open. Marco's scream reverberated through the empty restaurant. Sprawled on the freezer floor among boxes of frozen food lay a woman. Her olive skin had taken on a bluish tint. Her eyes were closed, but her chest moved with shallow breaths. Sophia Mendez, Victor's wife, was somehow still alive. 30 minutes later, the area surrounding the restaurant was blocked off with yellow police tape. The ambulance siren faded as it rushed Sophia to the hospital in critical condition. Detective Elena Cortez, a tall woman with intense eyes and prematurely gray hair at her temples, surveyed the scene, jotting observations in her worn leather notebook. "The freezer appears to have malfunctioned approximately 72 to 96 hours ago," said the forensics technician, a young man in latex gloves. "If it had been working properly, the victim wouldn't have survived more than 48 hours in these temperatures." "The marks on her wrist suggest she was bound," Cortez said thoughtfully. "Someone wanted her to die slowly in the cold." She turned to the uniformed officer beside her. "Where's the owner?" "We're looking for him now. Victor Mendez, 38 years old. His cell phone is going straight to voicemail. According to neighbors, he hasn't been home since Thursday." His wife, Sophia Mendez, 36, also disappeared Thursday. She works as a physical therapist at Pinewood Medical Center and missed her appointment on Friday. Cortez examined a framed photograph hanging in the restaurant's office. The happy couple at the grand opening 3 years ago. Victor was stocky with an easy smile and neatly trimmed beard. Sophia had elegant features, warm brown eyes, and long dark hair. "Find the husband. Now," Cortez ordered. The detective stepped outside where curious onlookers had gathered. Among them, she spotted Marco smoking nervously, leaning against his truck. "Mr. Delgado, I have a few more questions." Cortez approached him. "How long have you worked with Mr. Mendez?" 5 years, since before he opened this place," Marco replied, his hands trembling slightly. "I can't believe what happened to Sophia. Who would do something like this to her?" "Have you noticed anything unusual about Mr. Mendez's behavior recently?" Marco hesitated, taking a long drag from a cigarette. "Money problems, you know? The restaurant isn't doing as well since those chain places open up on the highway. But detective, Victor loves Sophia. They've been together since they were 20. He would never." If this case has captured your attention, remember to hit the subscribe button to stay updated on similar stories. "When did you last see him?" Cortez interrupted. "Thursday evening. He was closing up. Said he and Sophia were heading to her sister's in Atlanta for a few days. Mentioned the freezer was making strange noises, but said the repair guy couldn't come until Monday." Marco paused, realization dawning on his face. "Wait, you don't think Victor?" "Thank you for your cooperation, Mr. Delgado," Cortez said, handing him her card. "Call me if you remember anything else." At Pinewood Medical Center, Cortez met with Captain Ray Daniels, head of the investigations unit. The broad-shouldered man with weary eyes had been her partner when she first joined the force. "Her condition is critical but stable," he said, nodding toward the ICU where Sophia lay. "Doctors say she's extremely lucky. If the freezer had been functioning normally, she wouldn't have survived even 2 days. It's remarkable she made it 5 days even with the malfunction. Any leads? Cortez asked. We're investigating the Mendez family's finances. It doesn't look good. Significant debt, multiple loans, restaurant barely staying afloat. Insurance. Cortez raised an eyebrow. We're looking into it. There's a $250,000 policy on Sophia. Victor is the sole beneficiary. Powerful motive, Cortez nodded. Any trace of Victor? Nothing yet. We put out an APB. No border crossings. No air travel using his passport. Daniels gazed at Sophia's unconscious form through the ICU window. Something feels off, Elena. If he wanted to kill his wife, why use his own restaurant? It's too obvious. People in desperate situations don't always think clearly, Ray. Cortez replied, I'll talk to her colleagues and friends. Maybe they noticed something. 2 hours later, Cortez sat in the hospital cafeteria with Diana Lopez, a physical therapist who worked alongside Sophia. Sophia is incredible at her job, Diana said, wiping tears from her eyes. Patients request her specifically. She's patient and kind, even with the most difficult cases. I just can't imagine someone wanting to hurt her. Did you notice any changes in her behavior recently? Diana hesitated, stirring her untouched coffee. About 5 weeks ago, she seemed distracted. I asked what was wrong, but she just said she wasn't sleeping well. Then last week, I found her crying in the supply closet. When I walked in, she quickly dried her eyes and said everything was fine, but I noticed bruising on her wrist, like someone had grabbed her too hard. Do you think she was having problems with her husband? Cortez asked carefully. Like what you're hearing? Don't forget to like this video and share it with friends who enjoy true crime stories. I don't want to jump to conclusions, Detective. Sophia always spoke highly of Victor. They were high school sweethearts. But recently, she mentioned that he'd become tense, constantly talking about financial pressures. Then she'd stop herself, like she'd said, too much. Cortez made notes in her book. Did she mention any other issues? Maybe threats against her or Victor? Not specifically, but... Diana frowned, remembering something. 3 weeks ago, we were having lunch together when a man approached our table. Tall, expensive suit. He and Sophia stepped aside to talk privately. When she came back, she looked shaken. She said he was an old acquaintance of Victor's. She never mentioned him again, and I didn't pry. Evening had fallen by the time Cortez returned to the station. On her desk was a folder from the Financial Crimes Unit. The Mendez's situation was dire. A substantial business loan, mortgage, credit card debt, and most alarmingly, a significant debt to Carlos the Clock Ramirez, a known loan shark and bookmaker. So, gambling is part of the equation, Cortez murmured, leaning back in her chair. Victor Mendez, your story gets more complicated by the minute. An officer knocked and entered with another file. Detective, we found Mendez's car abandoned at the Greyhound station since Thursday. Security footage shows him boarding a bus, but we're not sure which one. 6 different routes departed within that time frame. Good work, Cortez nodded. Keep checking and contact any relatives or friends he might turn to. When she was alone, Cortez opened her desk drawer and removed a photograph, herself with her husband and son from 7 years ago. A drunk driver had taken them both from her 4 years ago, leaving her with only her work and memories. Cortez studied the staff photo from Pinewood Medical Center, showing Sophia with her colleagues, smiling warmly. Something in Sophia's gentle expression reminded her of her late husband. I'll find whoever did this to you, she whispered. I promise. Late that night, when most officers had gone home, Cortez remained at her computer, researching Victor Mendez. Born in a working-class neighborhood in Atlanta, father left when he was 12, showed promise in culinary school, but dropped out for financial reasons. Minor juvenile offenses, trespassing, shoplifting. Then a clean record after meeting Sophia Rodriguez in high school. Opened a restaurant, initial success, then declining profits. Cortez's phone rang, the hospital. Detective Cortez, she answered sharply. This is Dr. Patel at Pinewood Medical. Patient Sophia Mendez has regained consciousness. She's asking about her husband. I'm on my way, Cortez said, already reaching for her jacket. Can she speak? Barely, and she's disoriented. Her memory may be fragmented. Please be gentle with your questioning. Driving to the hospital, Cortez considered the case. All evidence pointed to the husband, but something felt misaligned. If Victor planned this murder, why hadn't he ensured the freezer was functioning? Perhaps it was an impulsive act in a moment of desperation. But then, why not check back over 5 days? Captain Daniels met her in the quiet corridor. She's very weak, he cautioned. The doctor says you can ask only a few questions. Don't miss any developments in cases like these by subscribing to our channel right now. Sophia lay surrounded by medical equipment, her face ashen but her eyes alert. Mrs. Mendez. Cortez began softly, sitting beside the bed. I'm Detective Elena Cortez. Do you remember what happened? Sophia blinked slowly, her voice barely audible. So cold was so cold. Do you know who put you in the freezer? Sophia's forehead creased in concentration, fighting through mental fog. Victor? Her voice quavered. Where's Victor? Is he okay? Cortez exchanged glances with Daniels. We're trying to locate your husband, she answered carefully. When did you last see him? Thursday at the restaurant. He was worried. Carlos? She stopped suddenly, fear flashing across her face. I don't remember anything else. Why can't I remember? The nurse stepped forward. That's enough for today. She needs rest. As they left, Cortez turned to Daniels. She mentioned Carlos, probably Carlos Ramirez. Victor owes him money. Do you think Ramirez might be involved? Worth looking into, Daniels nodded. We need to find Victor Mendez. The sooner, the better. That night, sleep eluded Cortez. The Mendez case kept circling in her mind. She felt she was missing something crucial, some detail that would reframe the entire investigation. Morning brought a call that jolted her fully awake. Cortez, she answered groggily. Detective, we have a lead on Victor Mendez, Daniel said urgently. He was spotted at a motel just outside Savannah. We leave in 20 minutes. Cortez dressed quickly, the familiar adrenaline rush sharpening her senses. Perhaps today would bring answers to the questions plaguing her. Morning sunlight filtered through the blinds in Sophia's hospital room. Day 4 since her discovery, and her condition had improved significantly. The doctors were optimistic, but her memory remained fragmented. Disjointed images and conversations she couldn't piece together coherently. How are you feeling today, Mrs. Mendez? Dr. Patel asked, checking her vital signs. Stronger, she replied, her voice clearer than previous days. When can I go home? The doctor glanced at Detective Cortez, waiting by the door. It's too early to say. You need more recovery time. Sophia shifted her gaze to Cortez. Have you found Victor? We're following leads, Cortez answered, approaching the bed. Mrs. Mendez, can you tell me what happened last Thursday? Sophia frowned in concentration. I was at work. Victor called, asking me to come to the restaurant after my shift. He sounded anxious. She paused, struggling with her memory. Then, nothing, just cold, unbearable cold and darkness. Do you remember being in the freezer? Cortez asked gently. Sophia shook her head. No, I'm trying, but there's a blank space. I just remember. Her eyes widened suddenly. Carlos came to the restaurant. I remember now. He threatened Victor. Tuesday, it was Tuesday. He said Victor's time was up, that he needed to pay or there would be consequences. Hit that like button if you're finding this story as compelling as we do. Carlos Ramirez? Cortez clarified. When exactly was this? Last week, Tuesday evening. He said Victor owed $30,000. I only learned about the debt recently. Victor had been borrowing to keep the restaurant afloat, then gambling trying to win enough to cover everything. Cortez made notes. What about Thursday? Any details at all? Sophia closed her eyes, concentrating. Victor was putting something in a bag, talking about leaving town. She flinched suddenly. I was afraid. I don't know why, but I was terrified. And then she shook her head. Nothing else comes back to me. Don't push yourself, Cortez said. Rest. Memories often return gradually. Leaving the room, she found Daniels waiting. How's it going, he asked. Fragments coming back, but the crucial moment is still missing, Cortez replied. She confirmed Ramirez threatened Victor over a $30,000 debt. Let's start there. If Victor's running, Ramirez might know where to look. Carlos, the clock. Ramirez received him in his office, the back room of a high-end cigar shop downtown. A tall man with perfectly tailored clothes and a diamond-studded watch evaluated them coolly. Detectives, what brings you here? He smiled without warmth. Victor Mendez. Cortez began directly. When did you last see him? Mendez. Ramirez appeared to consider. Ah, the restaurant guy. Came by last Tuesday. Why do you ask? He owes you money, Daniel stated. $30,000. You're well informed, Ramirez nodded. Yes, he had payment difficulties, but we were working toward a resolution. What kind of resolution? Cortez watched his expression carefully. He mentioned insurance. Ramirez said casually, something about filing a claim. Business-related, I gather. Didn't go into specifics. The detectives exchanged glances. Insurance on the restaurant or on his wife? Cortez asked pointedly. The restaurant, I assumed, Ramirez replied, looking genuinely surprised. Why would you? He stopped. Wait, has something happened to Sophia? She nearly died, locked in the freezer of his restaurant, Daniel said sharply. And Victor has disappeared. A flash of what appeared to be genuine shock crossed Ramirez's face. Sophia? In the freezer? Look, I push for payment, yes, but I don't encourage this kind of... He gestured vaguely. Victor said he'd have the money by week's end. Some kind of insurance claim for equipment failure. He said. I agreed to wait. Insurance on the wife, $250,000. Cortez said quietly. Ramirez was silent, seeming to process this. You think he tried to for the insurance money? He shook his head. I never suggested anything like that. But you threatened him. Cortez pressed. Ramirez sighed. I reminded him of his debt. Yes, but I'm not a monster. Victor said he'd have part of the money by Friday. Something about an insurance claim for restaurant equipment. I agreed to a payment plan. He paused, realizing the implications. You don't think he meant. Thank you for your cooperation, Mr. Ramirez. Cortez stood. If Victor contacts you, I suggest you call us immediately. For your own sake. Leaving the cigar shop, Daniel shook his head. The picture is getting clearer. Victor's drowning in debt. His wife has a substantial insurance policy. Classic motive. Too classic, Cortez replied. And too sloppy for someone seemingly intelligent. Why not verify the freezer was working? Why leave her in his own restaurant where she'd be found? Enjoying this detailed investigation? Subscribe now so you don't miss the resolution of this case. Maybe he did check, but failed later, Daniel suggested. Maybe. Cortez nodded, unconvinced. Or maybe there's something we're missing. Back at the station, they discovered Victor's bank records had arrived. The past 4 months showed a financial nosedive, gambling losses, late loan payments, cash withdrawals. Look at this. Daniels highlighted a transaction. 2 weeks before the incident, Victor withdrew $5,000, nearly emptied the account. Down payment to Ramirez? Or getaway money, Cortez suggested. Here's something interesting. The same day, Sophia transferred $4,000 from her personal savings to their joint account. She was trying to help, Daniels observed, or they were planning something together. Cortez said thoughtfully, we should talk to Sophia again. Maybe she's remembered more. At the hospital, Sophia had been moved from intensive care to a regular room. Her recovery was progressing well. She could sit up and take short walks with assistance. Detective Cortez, she smiled weakly as Cortez entered. I hope you'd come back. I'm starting to remember more. I'm listening. Cortez sat beside the bed. It's strange, like watching a movie with missing scenes, Sophia said, gazing out the window. Victor and I were at the restaurant Thursday night. He was panicked, talking rapidly, saying we needed to leave town for a while. Did he explain why? Carlos, Sophia replied immediately. Victor admitted he'd borrowed for more than just keeping the restaurant afloat. He tried to buy into some import scheme that promised huge returns, but he'd been scammed. The money vanished. She swallowed hard. Ramirez gave him 1 week. Said if Victor didn't pay, he'd... She paused. He said, "Your pretty wife will discover what it's like to be alone." Victor was terrified. He said he had a plan. We needed to stage something to collect insurance on the restaurant equipment. Cortez noted this carefully. The plan involved the restaurant insurance, not your personal policy. Yes, Sophia nodded emphatically. Victor would never harm me. We've been together since we were teenagers. He loves me, detective. Then how do you explain being found bound in the freezer? Sophia shook her head. I don't remember that part. But Victor wouldn't. Her voice faltered. There must be some explanation. Cortez changed direction. Who knew about your financial problems? Not many people, Sophia considered. Marco, of course. My friend Diana knew things were difficult, but not the details. Victor had been talking to his cousin Roberto recently. They reconnected after years apart. Roberto? Cortez tensed. This was a new name, Roberto Mendez. They've met several times in the past 2 months. Victor seemed hopeful after these meetings, said Roberto had business opportunities. Cortez made a note. One more question. The $4,000 you transferred to the joint account 2 weeks ago, was that your idea or Victor's? Sophia looked surprised. Victor didn't know about that money. It was my emergency fund. When I saw how desperate things had become, I decided to help. He initially refused, said he'd handle everything, but I insisted. After leaving the hospital, Cortez called Daniels. Ray, we need to find Roberto Mendez, Victor's cousin. Sophia says they reconnected recently and discussed business opportunities. I'll start searching, Daniels replied. Meanwhile, forensics finished analyzing the freezer. It failed approximately 24 hours after Sophia was placed inside. The thermostat was deliberately damaged. Cortez frowned. So the freezer was meant to work, but someone sabotaged it? Exactly. Either Victor changed his mind about killing his wife, or someone interfered with his plan. Or his plan was different all along. Cortez said thoughtfully. Check security footage around the restaurant for the 2 weeks prior to the incident. Let's see if anyone unauthorized was hanging around. Already did. Daniels responded. The day Sophia disappeared, a camera across the street caught Victor, leaving at 7:30 p.m., locking up. But at 9:45 p.m., someone in a hooded jacket used the back entrance. Build matches Victor, but the face isn't visible. Don't forget to share this video with friends who appreciate detailed crime investigations. So Victor might return later, Cortez reasoned, either to check on Sophia or to tamper with the freezer. Or it was someone else entirely. The recording isn't clear enough to be certain, Daniels cautioned. Were there internal security cameras? One in the dining area, but not in the kitchen or freezer area. And what did it show from Thursday? That's the odd part. The system was deliberately turned off at 6:15 p.m. Someone manually disabled it. Driving back to the station, Cortez considered the case. Evidence pointed to Victor, financial troubles, insurance policy, disabled security camera. Yet Sophia's testimony about the restaurant insurance plan, not personal insurance, created doubt. And why damage the freezer after Sophia was inside? A young officer waited for her at the station with a folder. Detective, we found information on Roberto Mendez, Victor's cousin, 41 years old, prior convictions for fraud and theft, released from prison 8 months ago. The officer handed her a photograph. He's registered at an address in Savannah, but neighbors say they haven't seen him recently. What about these? Cortez pointed to phone records. Victor's call history for the past month. The highlighted number belongs to Roberto Mendez. They spoke almost daily, most recently Thursday morning before Victor and Sophia disappeared. Cortez studied the information. Roberto seems more significant to this story than we initially thought. Sophia Mendez awoke in her hospital room shivering. Though it had been 5 days since her rescue from the freezer, the memory of bone-deep cold still haunted her dreams. Her hand reached automatically for the call button, but stopped. These nightmares are part of your recovery process, Dr. Patel had explained. Sophia took deep breaths, organizing her thoughts. Her memory was returning in fragments. Working at the medical center, Victor's phone call, entering the restaurant through the back door. Then came the void, punctuated only by flashes of unbearable cold, heaviness in her limbs, inability to move. Detective Cortez was due to visit again today. After their last conversation, Sophia's memory had begun yielding new details, as if a dam were slowly breaking. This morning, she would share everything she remembered, or almost everything. Detective Cortez arrived precisely at 10 a.m. Her tall figure filled the doorway, her expression focused and determined. "Good morning, Mrs. Mendez," she said, entering the room. "You're looking better." "Physically, yes," Sophia replied, sitting up straighter. "But my mind, I'm still piecing things together." Cortez nodded, taking the chair beside the bed. "The nurse mentioned you remembered something important yesterday." She opened her notebook. "I'm listening." Sophia swallowed, gathering her thoughts. "At first, it was just a flash in a dream. I saw a face." She tensed. His face, Victor's, looking at me without recognition, without the warmth I'd known for 18 years of marriage. She paused, struggling with emotion. Cortez waited patiently, allowing Sophia time to compose herself. "Last night, I remembered Thursday evening more clearly," Sophia continued. "I arrived at the restaurant after work. Victor was alone, going through financial documents. When I entered, he quickly hid them, as if he didn't want me to see. We chatted about trivial things. Then he suggested I help him take inventory in the freezer." Sophia paused again, her hands trembling slightly. We went in together. I started counting stock. Then I felt a blow to my head. I thought a shelf had collapsed. I felt dizzy. Everything went dark. When I turned, I saw Victor holding something heavy, a meat tenderizer, I think. Cortez took notes, listening intently. "Did he hit you?" "Yes," Sophia answered quietly. "On the back of my head. Not hard enough to cause serious injury, but enough to knock me unconscious. Before I blacked out completely, I saw his face and heard him say..." She closed her eyes, remembering. "I'm sorry, Sophia. There's no other option. You'll understand someday." Cortez nodded, writing in her notebook. "When you regained consciousness, were you already restrained?" "Yes, my hands and ankles were bound. I was lying on the freezer floor, between food containers. It was intensely cold. I tried to call out, but my mouth was taped shut." Sophia shuddered. "I heard the door close, the lock engage, and then the cold was so severe I lost consciousness again." If you're finding this case as fascinating as we do, please hit that subscribe button. Did you see Victor after regaining consciousness in the freezer? Sophia shook her head. "No, I just heard the door. But it must have been him. There was no one else at the restaurant, just us." Cortez tapped her pen thoughtfully. "Mrs. Mendez, how would you describe your relationship with your husband in recent months?" Sophia lowered her gaze, strained. Victor was constantly anxious, irritable. The financial problems, the gambling debts, the restaurant struggles, they were consuming him. We communicated less. Sometimes he'd come home late smelling of whiskey. She sighed deeply. "I thought it was temporary, that we'd overcome it like we'd overcome other challenges. I never imagined he could." She trailed off. "Were you aware of the life insurance policy naming you as the insured and your husband as beneficiary?" Cortez asked. "Yes, we purchased it 4 years ago when we took out the business loan. The bank required it. $250,000. Sophia paused, realization dawning. "You think he did this for the insurance money? To solve his financial problems?" "It's one possible motive," Cortez answered carefully. "We know your husband faced significant financial pressure. Debt to Carlos Ramirez, bank loans, a struggling business." "Oh, God," Sophia whispered, covering her face. 18 years together. I thought I knew him." Cortez allowed her a moment, then continued. "There's something else I'm curious about. You mentioned that at some point the freezer stopped working. Do you recall anything about that? Sophia frowned in concentration. It's strange, but yes. Initially, it was unbearably cold, painful. I expected to die. Then I lost consciousness, and when I woke later, the cold wasn't as intense. I could see my breath, but it wasn't freezing anymore. I managed to loosen the bindings on my wrists, though I couldn't free myself completely. Did you hear anyone enter the freezer after you were inside? No, wait. Sophia hesitated. I think I heard the door open at some point, but I might have been hallucinating from hypothermia. I'm not certain. Cortez made another note. Thank you for your honesty, Mrs. Mendez. This information significantly helps our investigation. We're doing everything possible to locate your husband. Have you? Sophia asked hesitantly. Found him yet? Not yet. Cortez shook her head. But with your testimony, we'll intensify our efforts. He won't be able to hide much longer. When the detective left, Sophia stared out the window, tears silently streaming down her face. Part of her still refused to believe Victor, her Victor, could have done this to her. Another part was beginning to accept that the man she loved might have been a stranger all along. Cortez returned to the station where Daniels awaited her, his typically stoic expression betraying excitement. Elena, we've had a breakthrough, he said as she entered. Security footage from a gas station in Savannah shows Victor Mendez 3 days ago. He purchased a bus ticket to Miami. Contact Miami PD, Cortez instructed. Have them check bus terminals, budget motels, any location he might be staying. And here's something else. She handed Daniels her notes. Sophia remembers that night clearly now. It was definitely Victor. He struck her from behind and locked her in the freezer. So the husband after all, Daniels said thoughtfully, but the freezer sabotage still doesn't make sense. That's not consistent with a premeditated murder plan. I think he miscalculated, Cortez replied. The restaurant was already struggling. The equipment was old. Perhaps the freezer malfunctioned naturally or was already damaged. Either way, it saved Sophia's life. Well, his freedom is running out, Daniels said, rising from his desk. I'll coordinate with Miami immediately. Don't forget to like and share this video if you're enjoying this investigation. The next 2 days brought limited progress. The search in Miami yielded no results. Victor had either changed his destination or was skillfully evading detection. Cortez spent hours analyzing the Mendez's financial records, searching for any pattern that might predict Victor's movements. On the third day, as Cortez prepared to leave for the evening, she received a call from the Credit Card Monitoring Division. Detective, we've detected activity on Victor Mendez's credit card, a purchase at a convenience store in Jacksonville, Florida, 40 minutes ago. Send me the exact location. Cortez responded immediately. And alert Jacksonville PD. I'll be on the next flight. 5 hours later, Cortez was coordinating with Jacksonville police officers, studying a map of the area surrounding the convenience store. Riverside Motel, one officer reported, hanging up his phone. Mendez checked in yesterday under the name Miguel Torres. Paid cash, but the night manager recognized him from the photo. The tactical team arrived at the Riverside Motel within 15 minutes. A shabby single-story building with peeling paint and a flickering neon sign. Room 8, far end, the manager indicated. Cortez led the group across the cracked concrete. Officers positioning themselves on either side of the door. Jacksonville Police. Victor Mendez, we know you're inside. Come out with your hands visible. Silence. Cortez nodded to an officer with a battering ram, and the door splintered inward. Clear. Called an officer after the initial sweep. Victor had been there recently. The bed was unmade, a half-eaten sandwich on the table. He must have seen us coming, Cortez said, surveying the room. A crumpled receipt from a convenience store lay on the nightstand. In the trash were empty beer bottles and fast food wrappers. Look at this, detective. An officer called from the small desk. He left his laptop behind. Cortez approached, noting the computer was powered on with an unsent email draft open on the screen. To whoever finds this, I know you'll catch me eventually. Maybe by the time you read this. I'm far away, Or maybe you've already found me. Either way, I owe an explanation. I never wanted to hurt Sophia. I loved her from the moment we met in high school. 18 years together, the happiest of my life. Then everything collapsed. Debts, gambling, the restaurant failing. I was desperate. Carlos threatened me, said if I didn't pay, Sophia would suffer. Then I saw a way out, the insurance policy, $250,000, enough to solve everything. I obsessed over for weeks. Tried finding another solution, but saw none. That night, something in me broke. It was like watching someone else control my body. After I locked her in the freezer, I immediately realized what I'd done. But it was too late. I couldn't free her. She'd tell the police. I decided to run, packed a bag, withdrew what little cash I had left. But that night, I returned to the restaurant. I couldn't leave her to die. I wanted to release her, face the consequences. When I arrived, I discovered the freezer malfunctioning. The temperature was rising. I realized Sophia might survive if found quickly enough. So I damaged the thermostat further, ensuring the freezer would completely stop cooling. It was all I could do. I deserved punishment. I nearly killed a woman I've loved all my adult life for money. There's no forgiveness for that. But I want Sophia to know I loved her truly, always did. And I'm sorry beyond words. Cortez read the message twice, then turned to the officers. Distribute updated photos. We know he's still in the area and knows we're closing in. Check transportation hubs, bus stations, train depots, the airport. He'll try to leave Jacksonville immediately. The search intensified overnight. Every Jacksonville officer carried Victor's photograph. Patrol cars monitored major roads leading out of the city. The breakthrough came the following morning when an officer at the Greyhound station recognized Victor waiting for a bus to New Orleans. As police approached, Victor attempted to flee but was quickly apprehended. He offered no resistance during the arrest. Victor Mendez looked exhausted, unshaven for days, dark circles under his bloodshot eyes. "It's finished, isn't it?" he asked quietly when Cortez entered the interrogation room. "Yes, Mr. Mendez," she replied, sitting across from him. "It's over." Victor lowered his head, shoulders slumping. "How is Sophia? Will she recover completely?" "She survived by pure chance," Cortez answered evenly. "Or perhaps not entirely by chance." Victor looked up, surprise in his eyes. "You found my laptop. You read what I wrote." "Yes," Cortez nodded. "You claim you returned that night and deliberately damaged the freezer's thermostat to prevent it from working properly. Is that true?" "Yes," Victor answered softly. I couldn't leave her to die, but I couldn't free her either. I panicked, didn't know what to do." He ran his hand across his face. "I thought if the freezer stopped working, Sophia could survive until morning when Marco arrived. He always comes in first." "Why didn't you simply call Marco and tell him to check the freezer?" "I was terrified," Victor admitted. "Afraid he'd immediately call police, that I'd be arrested before I could get away." He laughed bitterly. "And here I am anyway." Cortez studied him intently. "Why, Mr. Mendez? Was it just for the money?" If this case intrigues you, hit subscribe now to follow more detailed crime investigations. Victor remained silent for several moments, as if searching for the right words. Initially, yes, the insurance seemed like the solution to everything. Ramirez's debt, the business loan, the mortgage, everything could be resolved. He shook his head slowly. But then I lost my mind. I convinced myself there was no alternative, that if I didn't pay Carlos, he'd hurt Sophia anyway, that when the bank took everything, we'd have nothing left. So you decided to kill the woman you claimed to love? I told myself it would be quick. Victor's voice broke, that she wouldn't suffer. I convinced myself I was doing it for both of us. His voice trembled, but it was all lies I told myself. I did it out of fear, out of weakness, and I despised myself for it. Cortez leaned back. "Mr. Mendez, you're facing attempted first-degree murder charges. With premeditation and severity of the crime, you could receive up to 25 years. "I understand," Victor nodded, "and I deserve it. If the freezer hadn't malfunctioned, he couldn't finish. Technically, Cortez interjected. According to you, you caused a malfunction yourself after the fact. Yes, but only after I'd locked her in there, Victor insisted. That doesn't diminish my guilt. I'm still responsible for what happened. Cortez closed her notebook and stood. You'll be transferred to Pinewood for further proceedings and trial. I recommend complete cooperation with the investigation. Honesty may mitigate your sentence. As Cortez reached the door, Victor called after her. Detective Cortez, can I see Sophia? Just once before the trial. Cortez turned, her expression neutral. That's not my decision, Mr. Mendez. That's entirely up to Sophia. But in your position, I wouldn't expect forgiveness. 1 week later, Victor Mendez was extradited to Pinewood to stand trial for attempted first-degree murder. Local media covered the case extensively. The restaurant owner who locked his wife in a freezer for insurance money generated significant public outrage. Sophia was discharged from the hospital 2 days after Victor's arrest. She was recovering at Diana's home, avoiding reporters and curious neighbors. When Cortez visited, Sophia looked physically recovered, but a new weariness shadowed her eyes. The knowledge that the person she trusted most had betrayed her so profoundly. He wants to see you, Cortez said. He asked me to tell you. Sophia stared out the window, silently, for a long moment. You know, detective, the worst part isn't the cold or the dark or the fear of dying. She turned to face Cortez. The most terrifying thing is realizing that someone you've shared 18 years with, someone you built a life with, could coldly lock you in a freezer and leave you to die. Her voice wavered. How do you continue living with that knowledge? I don't know, Mrs. Mendez, Cortez answered honestly. But you're a strong woman. You've already survived something that would destroy many people. You'll find a way forward. We appreciate you watching. Please subscribe for more true crime stories like this one. Sophia smiled faintly. Perhaps in time. She sighed deeply. Tell him I'm not ready to see him. Maybe someday, but not now. Victor Mendez's trial lasted 4 days. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence. Traces of struggle in the restaurant, Victor's fingerprints on the freezer handle and thermostat, his flight after the incident, the confession draft on his laptop, and his subsequent confession to police. The defense built their case on temporary mental distress due to financial pressure and the fact that Victor returned and deliberately damaged the freezer's thermostat to save his wife's life. This was supported by forensic examination, confirming the thermostat had been manually damaged rather than failing naturally. Sophia did not attend the courtroom proceedings, but a written statement was read by the prosecutor. Marco Delgado testified about Victor's erratic behavior in the days before the incident and the restaurant's financial struggles. After 3 hours of deliberation, the jury returned with a verdict: guilty of attempted murder with premeditation. The judge, acknowledging Victor's return and attempt to save his wife, along with his full confession, sentenced him to 18 years with possibility of parole after 12 years. As the sentence was announced, Victor stood with head bowed, accepting his fate. When given the opportunity for final words, he spoke with visible emotion. I want Sophia to know that I take full responsibility for my actions. What I did was unforgivable, and no explanation can justify it. I don't ask for forgiveness because I know I don't deserve it. I only hope that someday she finds happiness again. She deserves that more than anyone. 1 week later, Detective Cortez completed her final report on the Mendez case. Justice had been served, but as with many of her cases, the resolution felt hollow. Another family destroyed. Another life derailed by poor decisions and betrayal. Daniels knocked and entered, holding the morning newspaper. Our case made the front page, she said, placing on her desk. Frozen betrayal. Husband attempt to murder wife for insurance payout. Journalists in their headlines. Cortez remarked dryly, how is Sophia doing? Still in touch. Yes, Daniels nodded. She's resilient. Already interviewing for positions in Tallahassee. Says she can't stay in Pinewood. Too many painful associations. Understandable. Cortez signed the report and closed the folder. You know what's been bothering me about this case? The freezer sabotage. Victor claims he returned that night and deliberately damaged it to save Sophia. Forensics confirms it was intentionally disabled. You don't believe him? Daniels asked. I'm not sure, Cortez admitted. Maybe he did return, overcome with remorse. Or maybe he's trying to appear more sympathetic before sentencing. Either way, the act doesn't erase what he did initially. Human nature is complicated. Daniels observed. Love and betrayal can exist in the same heart. Getting philosophical, Ray? Cortez smiled slightly. Sometimes we need philosophy to make sense of what we see in this job. They sat in momentary silence, lost in their own thoughts. Thank you for watching this entire investigation. Don't forget to subscribe for more true crime content. By the way, Daniels mentioned, Sophia has been asking about you. She wants to thank you personally before she leaves town. Just doing my job, Cortez shrugged. Nevertheless, Daniels insisted. She'll be at Riverside Cafe tomorrow at noon. Said she'd appreciate if you could stop by. Cortez nodded agreement. The next day at noon, she entered the small cafe on Main Street. Sophia sat by the window, looking different. Hair cut short, more formal clothing, as if recreating herself. Detective Cortez, she smiled as Cortez approached. Thank you for coming. Elena, please, Cortez said, sitting across from her. The case is closed. We can dispense with formalities. Sophia nodded. I wanted to thank you, Elena, for finding Victor, for believing me when my memories were scattered. It's my responsibility, Cortez replied, repeating her earlier words to Daniels. And yet, not everyone approaches their duty with such humanity. Sophia sipped her tea. I leave tomorrow. New job, new city, new beginning. That's positive, Cortez approved. Sometimes a fresh start is necessary. I can never completely escape what happened, Sophia said quietly. It will always be part of me, but I can learn to live with it, become stronger because of it. Cortez studied her thoughtfully, noting the pain in her eyes, but also the determination. You're already stronger than most, she said. You've survived the ultimate betrayal, yet found the will to move forward. Sophia smiled faintly. The strangest thing? Sometimes I still have fond memories of Victor, of the man I thought I knew for 18 years. That seems impossible, doesn't it? No, Cortez answered gently. It means you're human, with all the complexity that entails. They discussed Sophia's plans, her new position at Tallahassee Memorial Hospital, the apartment she'd rented, her hopes for rebuilding. When they parted, Sophia extended her hand. Thank you, Detective, for everything. Cortez shook her hand firmly. Take care of yourself, Mrs. Mendez. Just Sophia, she smiled. I'm reclaiming my maiden name. Sophia Rodriguez. 3 years later, Cortez received a card from Tallahassee. Inside was a photograph of Sophia in her medical uniform with colleagues. On the back was written, Life continues. Thank you for helping me find the strength to go on. Sophia Rodriguez. Cortez smiled and placed a photo in the Mendez case file. Even in the darkest stories, light can eventually break through. Sometimes, the ice melts, revealing the possibility of new beginnings. Victor Mendez served his sentence, participating in rehabilitation programs and anger management classes. Each day, he wrote letters to Sophia that remained unsent. Each day, he saw forgiveness he never expected to receive. Justice had been served, but at tremendous cost. A shattered family, broken trust, years lost. And yet, as Cortez contemplated Sophia's photograph, she thought, life does go on for those with the courage to begin again.